The state has a very strong narrative that is in fact built on Islam to justify the death penalty. So could you share a bit on how you would use Islam in your work on the death penalty and something? So thank you so much for joining us, and I give you the floor.
Thank you, Zainab. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for attending this session. I hope you are hearing me well. Actually, Zainab, what I will do is to talk about how Saudi Arabia is using the narrative and how, according to this, we can also argue and we can develop.
Do you want to stand? Some people are saying you can't.
Okay. ESHR is an organization based in Berlin. Since 2013, we have been working in Saudi Arabia and death penalty. From our work on death penalty in Saudi Arabia, we have learned that the main problem is how the religion is used as a political and legal shield to avoid accountability and close the door of meaningful discussion, as Zainab said. Whenever the UN, governments, or human rights organizations raise concerns about executions, the response is usually that these are a matter of Sharia and national sovereignty, but the legal reality is much more complex. There is an important difference between religion justification, written law, and actual practice. Today, the death penalty in Saudi Arabia is not limited to murder cases. It is also used for drug offenses, politically and security-related cases, and offenses where judges have broad powers. In other words, the state is not simply applying Sharia, it decides how to interpret it, how to codify it, and apply it. This is where we see the gap between the reform the government is talking about and reality. Since 2018, Saudi Arabia has announced a number of reforms. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman promised to reduce the usage of death penalty. The authorities announced that children would no longer face execution, and also the death penalty would be limited to the most serious crimes. The executions for drug offenses will stop, and the new legislation would reduce the restriction and improve the legal certainty. But the reality was different. Since 2015, Saudi Arabia carried out more than 2,000 executions, including record number in recent years. Executions of people accused of crimes committed as children have continued. Executions for drug offenses resumed after stopping it for almost 2 years. Death sentences also continue to impose in political and security-related cases, and serious fair trial violations remain widespread. So when we say that religion is being used as political cover, we mean that religious arguments are used to justify political and legal choices to block meaningful discussion. This is why the advocacy should precise, actually. In many of the cases we have documented it, especially involving foreign nationals and other groups, we have seen a lack of legal representation, no interpretation, unfair trials, confessions extracted under torture, and death sentences, as I said, for crimes that are not from the most serious crimes. This is why we believe the starting point should not only to remind Saudi Arabia of the international obligations and international law, but also its own commitments and own promises that they have made by themselves. Saudi Arabia is a state party of the Convention Against Torture, for example, and the Convention for Rights of Child. It has also made public commitments before the Human Rights Council regarding children and also regarding the most serious crimes. So asking Saudi Arabia to implement this commitment is not imposing outside standards, it is asking the state to respect the promises that they had already made. We need to expose the gap between the official promises and the actual practices, and to show how religion, sovereignty, and security are used to avoid accountability, as we see. So, and then, when we understand the differences between the religious justification, the written law, and the actual practice, we can develop and be more realistic and effective in our advocacy. strategy, and maybe we can discuss more about the practical advocacy strategy according to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dua, and I especially like that how you're using international standards to counter the state's overwhelming religious doctrine that they're using to justify violating human rights. So thank you so much for sharing, and we'll definitely come back to you with some questions. I know I have some, but I'm sure the audience also has many. Great. So we move from Saudi Arabia to Maldives, and we have with us Shahinda Ismail, who is the founder and the executive director of the Maldivian